Good afternoon, this is Davey T from Field Sports Scotland, and this is another episode of FSS Chatback, my weekly podcast where I talk about outdoor stuff, shooting related, hunting, that sort of stuff. This week, I start off with tell you a little bit what I always do, what I've been up to this week. I've been doing quite a bit of deer management, mainly just getting to know what is moving and what is not moving at the moment. I haven't seen many males, which has been quite difficult at the minute, but we've seen a few females. But I am noticing that we have a heck of a lot more pigs around on the estate that I'm working on, wild boar and stuff like that. So we'll be looking into management stuff like that. I have also been doing some summer fox control because, well, it's weird actually. It's not really summer fox control. Our lambing stopped round about end of May. Would been the last lambs that came. Now I got a call from a farmer. I don't usually shoot on their ground as such. I don't really do pest control on their ground. I usually just use their ground to zero my rifle. It's usually another guy that has the shooting rights there. And the farmer said, "Look, I've lost a few lambs, and the regular guy hasn't been able to get there." And I thought it was quite strange because his lambs are now around about 2 months old, so they're quite big. Couldn't believe it was a fox, but it was actually. So that was quite a weird one. It's not unusual for them to take big lambs, and some of the lambs are bigger than the foxes. But I don't know what was going on with this fox. It didn't seem like it needed to kill any lambs. So I got 2 adult foxes and 1 cub that first night I was out, and I promised over the next week or so I'll have another look and see if there's any more cubs about. So obviously that fox must have been just looking for easy prey. I don't know, but it's unusual for them to take lambs that big. So that was a kind of a strange one this week, and one of them was a very big dog fox, so very capable lamb killer. It must have frustrated that farmer because he lost about 2 or 3 lambs on the first night and then a couple of more, and it just seemed to be a regular thing for this fox just to attack lambs. So it's a bit unfair. Tonight, though, I'm not going to talk about politics or anything. I'm not going to talk about what news there is because there's lots of things going on all the time right now, especially when it comes to the countryside at the moment. It seems to be a big battleground now, especially the run up to the election. And I am not going to fall into that trap to say who to vote for and who not to vote for. Frankly, they're all as bad as one another right now, especially when it comes to the countryside. And I have kind of stopped listening for a little bit. Obviously, I'll still keep an eye out for any legislation changes that affects us. But at the moment, we already know what's going on, and until the next general election, it could all change after that as well. So we just got to kind of grin and bear it at the moment and see how we go on. So I'm not going to have a political show. What I'm going to talk about, though, shooting is like every other hobby. And shooting's not a hobby for me. It's something I enjoy, yes, but it is a vocation for me. It's how I earn my living. That's how I make money. Definitely not by doing podcasts. And I have to say that it's a necessity for me because it is shooting, and the things that I do are in regards to the shooting side of things. It just is part of the trade that I'm in. However, there's far more non-professional shooters out there, or recreational shooters out there who use it as a hobby. Now, I'm not going to talk about shooting in general tonight. I'm going to talk about hobbies within hobbies. Yes. Like most outdoor activities or any sport or anything. Now, you get a hobbyist who, for instance, collects trains. He will just collect trains. He might make things out of trains and stuff like that, and they might get so fascinated with different trains or whatever and want to go and holidays and stuff like that. And that's less of a hobby within a hobby. That is just enhancing the experience of that hobby that they pick. Like a person who collects stamps, they will look for unusual stamps and they will pick and they will make stamp albums. But again, it's not a hobby within a hobby. They might just have little purchases here and there that goes along with collecting stamps, like other albums or display cases or whatever. Outdoor activities tend to harbour a lot more geekiness to it, if the right word is. So, like fly fishermen. A lot of fly fishermen don't just stop at fly fishing and or going out fishing every so often, or paying for gillies, or paying to get on rivers or lochs, or going out with gillies or whatever. And it's not just about the equipment, and the equipment can be a hobby within itself. You can pretty much start collecting different things. But many fly fishermen tie their own flies. Now, tying flies is very time consuming. In fact, some people will say that the reason they tie flies is they enjoy the actual tying the fly over the actual fishing. They might even spend more time tying flies. But when you combine the two, it becomes a hobby and another hobby. It comes into two hobbies because you invest in the equipment to tie flies, which takes up probably more time than the actual what's the word I'm looking for? The actual activity itself that you tie flies for. And canoeing and kayaking could be the exact same. Mountain climbing. I know a lot of guys and girls will not just stop at mountain climbing. They will be climbing enthusiasts in general, and they will work with their own ropes and become experts in their fields and stuff like that. And shooting is no different. And one of the big hobbies, one of the things that can be quite time consuming, and one of the things that can be quite rewarding when you shoot, and if you want to really enhance your shooting experience, is reloading. Reloading your own ammunition is a huge part of making what is already good even better. And I'll explain that a little bit more. There's benefits and downsides to reloading, but the benefits far outweigh the downsides. For me, I reload not because I am a geek when it comes to it. I like to get a nice recipe for my rifle. Don't get me wrong. I spend a bit of time doing test loads and stuff like that, but that's all part and parcel of when you reload your ammunition. You can't just load what you think will work and then go out there. You do have to have a test load. You have to kind of have a test load process, and you kind of have to have an idea of what kind of speed you're looking for and what kind of accuracy you're looking for and stuff like that out of individual rifles. Now, anybody who spends a lot of time shooting rifles will know you could have two identical rifles, two the exact same make, exact same caliber, one serial number digit apart, and one will like one type of ammo and the other one won't like another type of ammo. And so it's all down to the barrels. It could be a little nick in the barrel. It could be a little change in the rifling. It could be the crown is shaped a slightly bit different. I mean, thousands and thousands of a mil out, and that could affect. You could put the two exact same rounds through that. You could put one round from the same box and for one rifle, put it through the other rifle, and they'll give you the completely different performance. I mean, speed, performance, grouping, that sort of stuff. So it can be quite fascinating. And most guys who reload to shoot. They do not shoot to reload, if you know what I mean. It's like working to live and living to work. There's folk out there, guys and girls. So it's not just guys that reload. I'm just saying guys as in an overall side of things as everybody. I know some people don't like to be called guys, but I'm just being it's just it's an easy way for me to explain everybody. And what they do is they reload, they get their test load, and they're happy with that. That's where they'll stop. That is completely where they'll stop. They'll get the components together. They will work out what is the right powder measurement, the right seating depth for their bullet, the right primer, and then they will keep that, and that will be the only load that they'll ever use. And that is pretty much, it's a convenience thing after that, and a cost thing. So it's cost effective because I can load up 100 rounds of ammunition for 100 quid, where sometimes I can't even buy 30 or 40. I can't buy 2 boxes of factory ammo for 100 quid. It's some factory ammo now is around about 60 or 70 quid, and you only get 20 in a box, so that's like 40 rounds of ammunition. It's so there's a cost effectiveness side of it. Convenience for me, because I have to travel to my nearest gun store, my nearest registered firearms dealer. So whether it's 40 miles into Inverness or whether it's 60 miles north, that's one way. So when I get my reloading components, most of them I can purchase in the post. The only thing I can't purchase is primers and powders, which you can buy kind of. You can make that makes the journey to the RFD worth going, because you can buy your primers and your powder. And I get a load and I am happy with it, and that's what I'll use until I see some accuracy changes, and then I might do another reload. Or if I have to change a bullet because you can't get a certain bullet or whatever. And the other benefits of it is that you are most likely to get far more accuracy with a reload, because you're basically customizing your load to your rifle than what you are if you're going to use factory ammunition. And people who shoot out to longer ranges, 1,200 yards, 1,300 yards, or even 500-600 yards, whether in competition or whether they like to plink out to that range, or even in some scenarios in some countries it's totally acceptable to shoot deer and elk and things like that at 650 yards. Getting that accuracy to the highest level at 100 meters or 100 yards is going to benefit your rifle, benefit your hunting experience, and benefit if you're in competition, because your accuracy holds then for longer. And then you get to understand your ballistic coefficients of bullets and stuff like that. The downsides of reloading is it's time consuming. And that's where it becomes a hobby within a hobby, because although I've got a load set up, I've got a book where I've got my different loads, or I have whatever, check my apps and stuff like that, I tend to load what I need for what specific rifle I need ammunition for, and then that's me ready to go out. So the convenience is there. If I've had a guest today and I've had a really busy day and I've shot maybe whatever ammunition I've had left, at least tonight, I know I've got the components. I could go and load up another 20 rounds of ammunition ready for tomorrow, and that's me sorted. I'm quite happy with that, But for a lot of people out there, it's more that they're always chasing that accuracy. Now, these people put it down, reloading down to a fine art. And I mean to a fine art. They've got the best of equipment. They, like any other hobby, they will have their data right down to a single kernel, and they will have their accuracy right down to 0.001 grain. They will have their seating depth right to that thousandth. They'll have the right equipment. They'll know exactly what the what their lands depth is as well on their rifle. They'll know exactly the speeds. They'll expect standard deviations in their rounds between 1 and 2. Anything under 10 for me is fine. But and I've got a couple of rifles that do shoot standard deviation at around about 1 and 2. In fact, my 243 and the 6.5 Creedmoor are consistently shooting at 2.0 SD, which is great. And these people will have that down to a fine art. I mean, sub quarter MOA, or quarter MOA, or sub MOA, sub half MOA at 100 meters, and they will have this down, and they will spend a heck of a lot time of it, a long time on it. They will be trickling down to the most finest grain of pounder. They will know exactly everything, and they will have lists. They will have books and books with all the different data. They will spend lots of trigger time at the range learning what each one will do. They'll know everything about the bullets. They will pick bullets that have got very high ballistic coefficiencies. They will work their loads up way beyond recommendations. So work the loads down below recommendations. They will be in they will be seeking out constantly that accuracy, and that's where it becomes a hobby within a hobby. And reloading itself requires quite a lot of equipment. In fact, you can, like any hobby, like anything else, you can start off with your basic equipment. I'm just checking the time here. You can start off with your basic equipment. You could happily reload with a standard single stage PRS, which I've got here on this press unit. A set of dies that usually come in 3, a set of RCBS or Lee Ultimate dies that you can pick up for 30 or 40 quid for that specific caliber. Remember, you have to, if you are going to reload, each caliber has its own specific dies. A trickler, a scale for weigh out the powder, your powders, your primers, your case, and your billets. And a set of calipers, and an okay set of calipers. And you could literally, and that's how I started, you can literally start off reloading from there, picking up some manuals, looking at data online. Most of the data is online and it's free to look at. Every powder manufacturer has a recipe for their calibers. Do your research on what powder you might want to use, what kind of performance you're looking for, what kind of speed you're looking for, what distance you're shooting at, and stuff like that. And you can look into it a little bit, but you don't really need to go too much. Or you could go all out. You could buy hundreds of pounds worth of press units. You can have multi-stage presses. You can have Frankfurt presses, Dillon presses. You can have full workshops that are, it grows arms and legs. You can have Lands gauges, you can have all sorts of things. You could have specific ogive measurement tools for your calipers. You can really geek it out and like weigh individual bullets so that you have a load that is all the same or very close to it. And a lot of guys do that, believe it or not. They'll take a box of bullets, or some people in this country call bullet heads, and they will weigh them individually. And all the ones that are the same, they'll put onto one side. Any ones with deviation, they'll stick to another. And I have seen bench rest guys do that and then go on things like the stocking directory and sell off the bullets that they've got left over. So if you ever see some of these guys, you'll notice that they'll have a box of, say, Sierra bullets, and they'll have 15 in them or something like that, and they'll sell those 15 bullets. And the reason for it is because they probably went through every one of the bullets in that box and weighed them all individually so that they could improve their accuracy by using the exact same consistent bullet all the time. And yes, there is slight deviations, and my problem is, right, so I would have liked to did a kind of video on showing people how to reload and all the equipment that you need and stuff like that. What I might do is I'll put links on this of kind of where to start and how to start. But I can't on YouTube show you how to reload ammunition. It's against one of their policies. In fact, it could ban me from the channel. So I'm trying to say this all in a roundabout way that it is worthwhile getting into reloading for the convenience and the cost side of things, but do expect it to take over your shooting, because it will actually, you'll be reloading to shoot and not shooting. Wait a minute. Or, sorry, you'll be shooting to reload and not reloading to shoot, if you know what I mean. A lot of people will spend a lot more time in reloading and getting that accuracy at the range than they ever will do hunting. I know people who have probably shot one deer a year, but their hunting rifle is so spot on, they could pretty much turn up to a match tomorrow and they would be ready to go. And that's where it comes into it. And as I said, there's quite a lot of hobbies out there. There's quite a lot of recreational sports out there that you can properly geek out, and you could. I know runners, for instance, who collect trainers. They collect training shoes, all different styles, all different whatever. Probably never even wear them. I know, guys who play football who collect sports memorabilia. Football might be the initial hobby that they have, but it kind of sets off their collection side of things that cost more money. You could take anything and go further, and shooting's like that because there's different disciplines. And even the shotgun shooters reload. There's a lot of guys who have a lot of satisfaction reloading their own shotgun cartridges. It's not just rifle shooters who reload. The real geeky ones, and I mean there's not many in the world. I have to say, there is literally not many in the world. There's probably you could probably count 10 guys in the world who reload rimfire. Now that is, I mean, even the geeks. I've watched Ultimate Reloader and all that on YouTube, a lot of YouTube channels and stuff like that. I'm plugging somebody else's channel here, and I don't even know them. And I've seen them, and they properly take things down to a fine art. But the guys who reload for rimfire, like 22LR, 22WMR, 17HMR and stuff like that, wow, those take it to an extreme level. I mean, they've got magnifying glasses, microscopes and stuff like that just to get that extra little grain of powder so they can get consistency. And rimfires are notoriously bad for day-to-day accuracy, the consistent accuracy all the time. You will always get one or two rounds that you'll get, and that's where the word flyer comes from. You don't tend to get flyers on the centre fire side of things. And people, I always kind of smirk to myself when I see guys and girls out there who are, actually it's more, I'm going to say this, it's actually more guys than what it is girls, who turn around and say that, I shot a great MOA group, 4 round group, but my fifth one was an inch and a half high. That's not a flyer. You call it a flyer, but that's not the cartridge. The actual standard term of a flyer is that the cartridge isn't set up right, and it's and the round isn't set up right, and it's went off on its own tangent. You get flyers with automatics and semi-automatics quite a lot because the different pressures of the gas system, or different pressures of reloading and stuff like that. When it reloads itself, it self-loads itself. Reloading is a bad phrase when I'm actually talking about reloading ammunition. But when it resets itself, you will get the odd different pressure going for a cartridge or whatever, and it's going through a round, so you will get a flyer with automatics and semi-automatics. But genuinely, with a standard bolt action rifle, if you've got one that's an inch and a half wrong, it's most likely down to you. It's down to user error. And we all do it. I could put 3 round groups all day at 100 yards, and then suddenly I'll have a day where I'll like, well, what's going on here? This is like an inch and a half group. And it's been completely me, or the bipod's not been right, or I've done too much movement on the bipod, or I haven't, the rear bag isn't sitting right, or I've got my head canted in a weird angle, or I'm just not comfortable that day. I've got a bit of wind in my stomach, or I've got heartburn, or I'm just not focusing properly. Now, and everybody who shoots a lot will get those days. So it's not always just down to your rifle and down to the cartridges. So flyers are generally, it's usually rimfire cartridges, because it's really hard. It's really hard to keep those little things accurate, because even in the factory, it could be like just off just that little bit. So you might have a box of say RWS that you're shooting perfectly, like circle groups at the range one day, and then you put another box in the same brand, and they'll be off maybe, I don't know, 1 or 2 centimeters or something like that, and you're like, oh wait a minute, why is that over there? Actually, guys who shoot rimfire all the time expect it, and it is just par for the course. But with centerfire, it's not. And that's the choice of reloading for centerfire, because the fact of the matter is, you can get that consistent accuracy. You will know in your head, this is not the round, this is not the rifle, this is not the equipment. It's you when things go slightly wrong. Because if you're getting that repeatable accuracy. That's what the words I was looking for when I was talking about the rimfires, because rimfires are notoriously bad for repeatable accuracy. But for centerfires, to get that repeatable accuracy, it's always best to reload. One of the pitfalls, and this is coming from me as a professional shooter who takes guys out guided stock, guys and girls out guided stalking, is the fact that I cannot use reloaded ammunition because it's a breach of my insurance. The insurance companies won't cover you for using reloading ammunition for taking out guests, and that's to be understandable, because there's no comeback then when it comes to a faulty round. If there is an accident, God forbid, and it rarely ever happens to anybody, if a cartridge fails or a component fails in the round, whether the bullet or whether the cartridge or whether the primer, something has caused that case or the powder, that case to split and cause damage to the rifle and cause damage and then causing damage to the shooter, then an insurance company can turn around and say, well, this actually was not the problem of the guide. This was the problem of the manufacturer. This round, he used this company round, this specifications, every other thing worked. Rifle was in perfect working order and it was maintained. The ammunition actually failed, and that is what caused the injury or caused whatever problems. And then it's down to the liable for the manufacturer, and that's why insurance companies do not like you reloading when you're taking guests, because the fact of the matter is, it is quite dangerous. You could overcharge a case, you could undercharge a case, you could be a little bit lazy one day and not do everything to the right parameters, and something jams or something causes a bit of a problem. You might not seat the bullet properly, and many people have had that and had bullets stuck in the chamber or stuck in the barrel. And I've had that in the past. So there is a element to risk of it. So, and plus, it's pretty much you're dealing with explosives. Now, yeah, if as a shooter you're dealing with explosives every day, but you feel a little bit more comfortable because you're using factory ammo. But you don't know how that factory ammo has been stored, or how much it's been abused and bashed about since it came from. And most ammunition comes from abroad when you live in the UK, so you're most likely going to get damages here and inconsistencies here and all that. The cost of setting up for reloading I'm just curious of the time. The cost of setting up for reloading can be quite expensive to start off. Powders can be expensive and stuff like that. But in the long run, or I'm not saying even in the first year, but most likely in the first year, you will see a benefit and you will see a difference in the cost. But I think that's all I could say about hobbies within hobbies tonight. And I hope I've given you a bit more information. Anybody wants any questions? I've got any questions in regards to what powders I use or anything that I do that allows me, because like all my rifles are sub MOA. All my rifles are sub MOA, and I've had plenty of people testify to that. And that's because I reload for most of it. I do have a couple of factory brands that I use. Federal Power Shocks in my 270, 140 grain ELD X's in for Horady. Those are factory rounds that I use for the 6.5. I use Barn. I use I can't remember the brand of copper that I use for deer. When I'm out with guests, I'm not going to go to the cabinet to look. I'll put a link up and I'll show it. I think it's Cellar and Bella. I don't know. I'll have. No, it's not. It's the Seiko ones. It's the Seiko ones I use in my 270 and the 6.5. The non-lead ones that I use when I've got guests out. So, but most of the time I will use Barnes TTSX bullets for when I'm reloading for deer and stuff like that. So just any questions or comments, leave them in the comments. So like and subscribe like always. Next week's podcast I will talk about summer pest control and foxing, maybe some of the equipment that I'm using, maybe actually going to talk about different collars, not the collars themselves, but different calls that I use on the electronic collar. And stay safe. I'm going to leave you on this one. Stay safe, happy hunting, and good night.